Yeah, you don't get intro music. Nope, no bells and whistles after a performance like that. 128-96. Hello, everybody. Your 76er season just came to a screeching halt this evening. Yeah, still another game to lose. Now 3-1 in this series. But just a brutal effort across the board. And you get Joel Embiid back. You think that might actually push you in the right direction, fire some things up. And JoJo came out and played well, but the expectations for JoJo weren't really all that much for me, from odds makers. Everybody else needed to step up and do a little bit more. But it goes back to my big point about this team, guys, and that is simply there have been multiple times this season where we saw that type of effort, where we saw that type of performance, where we saw that type of game. It's a whole different ball game when it's the regular season versus do or die in the playoffs at home on a Sunday night. Got a lot to discuss. Sixers wrap-up show powered by 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Sean Brace. Hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2. John Marks, middays of Marks, Ray Dunn. You got Sean Bedard in the middle of your screen from Crossing Broad and DK Network, and Sam Ostry from The Score. Boys, I would love to sit here and be fired up and yelling. I'm not surprised at what we just saw there. Sean Bernard, floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I can do that for you, Sean Brace, because that was an absolutely gutless performance from every single member of this roster, except maybe the guy who literally got a portion of his guts removed 17 days ago right there. Unacceptable. 3 field goal attempts from Tyrese Maxey in the first half. Paul George looking like an overpaid role player out there. Andre Drummond, when we cut the lead to 20 points, is just out there throwing elbows. It was unacceptable from every single level of this roster. Tyrese Maxey, man, like this to me is my number one takeaway. This has to be a look yourself in the mirror. If you want to be the guy, if we gas you up to be this all-star caliber guard, this guy in the mix for one of the better players in the league right here, which he largely has shown to be, I just need more than this deference. And for anyone that wants to throw this, and this is Joel being here and adjusting to styles, I don't want to hear that, man. This is about you seizing the moment, taking advantage of the opportunity. And for the first time, like really all season, I thought Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe looked scared out there. And that's a frightening feeling for me. So there's a ton of negatives to get into. We got to talk rebounding. We got to talk the three-point shooting. There's a lot to get into. But I'm just really disappointed on, frankly, a gutless effort from this team across the board.
Sam?
We see this in the playoffs every now and then. You see times where teams aren't that far off in terms of talent, but then they just get boat raced in some of these playoff games. And that happens all the time, even in 7-game series, as we're watching the Wolves and Nuggets battle it out. Most of their playoff series, a lot of those back and forth games have just been teams getting annihilated. And that's what happens. And sometimes when it rains and pours, and that's what happened with the Celtics tonight, they made 24 threes. That's the second most of any team in any playoff game in NBA history. You're not going to win a lot of basketball games against a team who's shooting that well from three. By the way, they shot 45%, but making that many threes, 24 on the night. I'm with Sean, where Tyrese Maxey is the guy who I was looking at. He's going to benefit more than anybody from Joel Embiid coming back. He's a guy where that's the best pick and roll duo in the NBA. Did a great job fighting over those screens. Their screen navigation was amazing in that ball screens with Embiid. But Jordan Walsh and Derek White had Tyrese Maxey in a torture chamber. And this is someone we were mentioning all year, 3 months ago. He's right up there with the Cade Cunningham and the Jalen Brunsons of the best guards in the East. He is nowhere close to those guys. He is a long way to go before you can really crown him the face of this franchise and the guy you feel comfortable with moving forward.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that Tyrese Maxey has been affected by that pink injury, right? I think mentally,
not an excuse anymore. Everyone's dealing with an injury this time of year.
I get it, but there's definitely been, as far as moving forward, and obviously there's life after this series with Tyrese Maxey, had a great season, but there's no doubt about it, Sam. Like his season has dropped off significantly. He wasn't the same Tyrese Maxey. Now, whether that is the injury, whether that is the minutes, whether that is just growing, the process of being this guy, right? Like this is all new to us. Nobody expected Embiid or Maxey to have this season that he's having. But I'm with you, though. You guys are exactly right. Like, this is the time that Tyrese Maxey needed to step up. Again, it's do or die at home. And the expectations can't be coming in that VJ Edgecombe's got to give us 30. It can't. Maxey has to, though, fair or unfair. I do want to put this out there, Sean, because Julian Edlow, he texted me, of course, from DraftKings, but Celtics fan, And he just simply said that Embiid really screws things up. Maxey took 3 shots in 20 minutes, at least inserting him at this stage, not fully healthy, and he shoots right away.
It's
so
just
there
wrong. Like it's just
that's
wrong.
flat
Like,
out wrong,
it's
and
just
Sean
wrong.
can take
And
it over, but that's
like,
ridiculous.
I love Julian. Good dude. In general, a guy that knows ball there. And he's not the only one that is taking this right here. It's absurd to think that bringing an MVP caliber player, a top 10 player in the league, makes the team worse. And even stylistically, that is far more of an indictment of every single member of this roster than Joel Embiid specifically. If you can't figure out how to play off a guy with arguably the greatest gravity of anyone in the NBA right there, that's a you problem, man. That's a you problem if you can't adjust your pace and find ways to succeed. And that applies to everyone in this roster. There is so much that they could have executed on with Embiid on the floor that was not the case in the first 3 games of this series. It was not a pace the reason that they lost this game. Embiid honestly was the best rebounder on the floor from the Sixers perspective tonight. So that wasn't the issue either, and that shouldn't be the case ever right there. Everything was wrong about their process for this game. None of that falls on Embiid's shoulders, and it's insane to me that that's the conclusion that I see a lot of people coming to.
I didn't necessarily take it as strong as you did. Now that sentiment is out there on the timeline.
Yeah.
That's not what I took from Julian's take. I just think it's more of a discussion, more of a talking point. I don't think he's saying that they're better without Embiid by no means. Like there was clearly something not connecting, and that's something that we discussed. Obviously, that we talked about the things that we're going to be wondering about Embiid, whether the conditioning will be there, the fact that it will take an adjustment period for the team to get a little bit more acclimated to playing with them, whether or not they practiced or not with them for the last couple of days. Like there was going to be that type of issue in this game. We knew that. Wasn't a surprise. I'm not sitting here to tell you don't play Joel Embiid. You had to. Like you don't have the horses. You don't have the horses.
He had 26, 10, and 6 tonight, by the way. Like, it's not like this dude, and he wasn't great.
A little
this wasn't
misleading. A little misleading.
This wasn't the best Joel Embiid performance of all time
Correct.
by any means. But by the way, it's one of the worst Tyrese Maxey performances I've ever seen. It was a really bad Paul George performance. It was a really bad VJ Edgecombe performance. Like Embiid can't be the scapegoat of blame for this game for a dude that stepped off the surgery table 17 days ago and gave far more an effort than most of the names I just rattled off.
Sam, that's the headline right there. And Embiid can't be the scapegoat, especially after that performance, whether that is a little misleading or not. Still, he did put in the numbers. You needed that guy, right? He was supposed to help out with rebounding to a point, defense a little better, right? Plus another body. We talked about how many players played extra minutes in the previous. Like if Embiid can play, it's not even a question he plays. Come on.
Of course. And first off, commendable effort for playing 17 days after appendicitis surgery.
Yeah.
The timeline for most of those guys who have had that surgery in the NBA, and there's not a lot of them, their recovery period is way longer than
Like
that.
23 days was the average, I think.
Yeah, that's the average. So for him to come back in 17 days is really impressive.
And he was hurting. He was hurting pregame.
100%. He was wearing something. He was wearing this huge thing on his stomach. Yep. I will say there is truth to stylistically. They do have to adjust the way they play when he's on the floor, no doubt. And the rebounding numbers I want to get into, but they don't emphasize offensive rebounding as much when he's on the floor, partly because I think he's bad at transition defense and they want to get back in transition. I do want to, specifically the Maxey point, there's no excuse for Maxey's 3 shots in the first half and Maxey's performance to be excused because he has to come back and play with Embiid. Anybody who's watched the Sixers, Maxey's entire career, but even this season, knows how much better of a player he is because of Joel Embiid's gravity and his presence. So that's usually helped Maxey, not hurt him, and that's what I expected coming into this game. But then you have this performance. It had nothing to do with Joel Embiid. That just had to do with Maxey, whether it's the finger bothering him, whether it's a confidence shot, whatever it is, just his passiveness. Maxey had a bad performance because Maxey had a bad performance, not because he was on the floor with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Go ahead, Sean.
I want to fight through this pace conversation because shout out to Baseball Rants in the comments, who's giving us a lot of good stuff. And he's not the only one. Like I'm seeing these takes all over the place. I just think they're completely off the mark. Like the Joel Embiid needs to pass the ball conversation. The dude had 6 assists tonight, tied for a team high. Tyrese Maxey had 3 shots in the first half. I'm not sure how you can possibly put that on Joel Embiid. And if we're just going to have the conversation for the vision for the Sixers team, right? And I get it from a pace perspective. In general, the playoffs are a half-court game that you need, the tempo settles down. You got to create things. Excluding Joel Embiid, is there a single player on this roster that you would argue can create consistent advantages in a one-on-one setting? Are you going to throw Tyrese Maxey in that conversation?
Maxey has shown to most of the season, just not recent.
Most of the time. I think Joel is on the short list of players in the league that is consistently in that conversation right there. That's an inherent advantage. And there should be so much that you can build off that, meaning there isn't a player on this Boston Celtics roster that can guard him one-on-one. What the result is you either punish that or they begin to throw multiple bodies and all of a sudden you have cutters coming off. You're able to hit open three-point shooters. None of that happened. The guys standing around and watching Joel Embiid just have the ball and post up in the mid-range, that's an issue for them for standing around and watching him post up in the mid-range. I'm not sure why this is a Joel Embiid conversation. It can be a Nick Nurse conversation, absolutely. It can be a all the other members of this team conversation right here. But I just to me, we have to put the blame on these guys who just settle in and watch this guy work, because your job is still to play basketball right alongside of him. So this stand around and watch Joel Embiid conversation, I don't understand how that falls on Joel's shoulders.
And I'm with Sean too, where you're seeing some of these comments that you're putting up, Brace, where it's like Maxey only had 3 shots because of Embiid. It's Maxey's operation when he's on the floor with Embiid. Usually what you're seeing when these two guys play together is they have the best pick and roll game in the NBA. And I keep saying that. I truly believe it. Those two, when they're healthy, they're the best pick and roll combination in the NBA. And it's an impossible defense. It's a possible equation to solve for defenses, because it's like, what are you giving up? Are you playing a deep drop and giving up Maxey threes? Or are you coming up to the level and Maxey will hit Embiid in the pocket pass? So it's usually Maxey's kind of game to play, whether he wants to hit Embiid and where he wants to hit Embiid. It just, that wasn't flowing tonight. The Celtics did a really good job of fighting over screens where Maxey had no space coming off these high ball screens early, and they were playing a deep drop, which prevented Embiid from kind of getting some of those touches he typically would in the short roll. And Embiid, by the way, his jumper and his touch was not great in the first half of this game. He started 3 for 12. When he got deep post touches, he converted, but when he was kind of shooting that short jumper, we know he's really elite at, it just wasn't falling down today. But I just didn't. I think that's more on Maxey, not the Embiid part, but in general, the fact that Maxey didn't only had 3 shots in the first half, that's on Maxey, because he's running the show more than it is on Embiid's presence or Paul George having some reps with the pick and roll. That's on Maxey, nobody else. It's on Maxey, and that's what I think a lot of people aren't understanding right now when they're putting the blame on Embiid.
Sean Bernard, the Boston Celtics, we've talked about this a million different times because it's a long series. It actually isn't too long, but it feels like it's been a hell of a lot longer. But this is a team that is competing for a championship. This is a championship contender team. You saw that tonight. It wasn't, look, they absolutely went berserk from downtown. And I know that, Sam, you said they set the record as far as from three-pointers made, 24 of 53.
Second most in a playoff game ever.
45%. It's insane. It wouldn't shock me if they had the number 1 record already on there from a few years ago. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not surprised. That's what their bread and butter is.
Yeah.
Could the Sixers have played, what type of game was needed from the 76ers to even win this game? That's my greater point. You had to have everybody out there. You had to have a better performance, of course, from Tyrese and VJ. It goes down the list. You would have needed a perfect game to beat the Celtics after a shooting performance like that.
Sure, but even putting the Celtics completely to the side, they scored 18 points in the first quarter. They were at, I think, 40 at halftime in this game. You're not beating the Charlotte Hornets on a Tuesday night with that kind of effort, and the Hornets are kind of out of that conversation this stage.
What a ricochet at the Hornets.
You're not beating the Washington Wizards on a Tuesday night with that kind of offensive output right there. So there's self-inflicted stuff for this Sixers team. We knew the three-point line was going to be an issue. And just to compare them tonight, the Celtics 24 of 53, 45%. The Sixers 9 of 30, 30% there. They're not going to be as good of a three-point shooting team as the Celtics roster. But what I have significantly more of an issue with there is the volume. When you're allowing 23 more three-point attempts to the other team right there, you're going to lose that game, man. You just are. That's even if you are a surgical, efficient shooting team, which the Sixers are far from that conversation, when you're getting that level of volume, just that team out shooting you, you're not in a good spot as a team right there. So this also falls directly on the shoulders of Daryl Morey from a roster construction standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
This is the same Daryl Morey that is campaigning the NBA league office about the three-point shots are worth too many points, that disrupts the game. Hey, man, how about you get in the lab and add a couple of those guys to this actual roster that can help you in that direction? And mind you, when we talk depth, when you look at the Baylor Shiremans and the Peyton Pritchards and the Jordan Walshes, the guys on the bench for the Celtics team who would each play 30 minutes a game for the Sixers team, and you talk about Quentin Grimes, who had by far his best game of the series, we talk about them just punting at the trade deadline, giving Jared McCain away, not bringing anyone in. a lot of this series to me is a glowing indictment on the roster construction by Daryl Morey.
And let me add to Sean's point on the bench. Over the last 2 games, and this doesn't include garbage time before all the subs came in this game, the Celtics bench is outscoring the Sixers bench 84-29. 84-29. And that's the difference. And it's not entirely fair because Peyton Pritchard plays starter minutes and he really is a starter, even though he comes off the bench. But that's still a ridiculous split. 84-29, the Celtics bench is outscoring the Sixers bench.
Well, we can talk points, but it comes down a lot to effort too, boys. You saw the rebounding again, 51-30 out rebounded.
Right.
Offensive boards 14-6. It just is a lack of effort, right? And we've had these games throughout the course of a season. I can count off the top of my head probably 4 or 5, and I'm probably not remembering 3 or 4 more if I'm honest with you, which is really depressing to say. And it sucks that it came tonight, but that's what we saw. That was a gutless performance across the board. That wasn't a team that was not ready for what would take to beat a team like the Boston Celtics. And it's like, I want to get fired up. I want to get worked up, but even if they play a perfect game, I still don't think that they beat Boston there. And that's just the frustrating part when it comes down to it, because we just don't have the horses. We don't have the team that can beat with Boston Celtics. Am I wrong on that, Sam?
No, not at all. And we're talking about a Celtics team, 60% of their threes or 60% of their shots tonight were threes, and they shot 45% from 3. You're going to beat the 96 Bulls or the 2016 Warriors with those type of splits. You just are. But I do want to say that's not all on the Celtics' great shooting. Part of that is on the Sixers' effort and poor defense that you're talking about, Brace.
Big part of it.
I thought their defense compared to last game, which was maybe the best defensive performance I've seen all year from them, was really lackluster tonight. And the ball pressure and how easily the Celtics were knifing in the lane, where it felt like last game, the ball pressure and high pickup points and how they were in gap help and they were just committing to team defense last game. It wasn't there tonight. And all these Celtics threes were coming off the Celtics easily knifing in the lane, driving kick. A lot of them were off of offensive.
All right, well, let me pause you. I love it, but you know what people are going to say? And if this dude keeps on ranting about it with baseball rants, well, what's the one reason why?
But this is a Maxey conversation too, and you can reject it as well. The amount of times that he helped off, whether it's Sam Hauser or Peyton Pritchard, the amount of time a guy knifes in the lane, Tyrese Maxey sells his soul for the steal, which is what he's been doing all season, and it leads to a wide open 3-point look. That happened double-digit times today, comfortably. And a lot of this, the larger conversation is the Nick Nurse scheme that he's all about. I want to throw multiple bodies. I want, but it
worked it worked the last 2 games. I will say it worked even though they shot well from 3 last game, that approach worked and kept them in the game.
It does, but it's one of those things where when it's clicking, it looks great. When it falls apart, you just have no chance to win this game. And this is not the Toronto Raptors, man. We don't have Kawhi Leonard. We don't have OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam buzzing around the court. Tyrese Maxey can't cover that ground. Quentin Grimes can't cover that ground. They don't have the horses to run this system. And by the way, the poet of the head coach in the post game tonight says, quote, "I'm not sure any matchup could guard anybody tonight." So shout out to you.
Yeah, that's the point, that it didn't really matter. I don't think the scheme or any of that. The point of attack defense was terrible for the Sixers. And I don't have an answer why, but I can just tell you from watching from my own eyes, like VJ Edgecombe, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, them guarding the Celtics playmakers, the Jaylen Browns, the Derek Whites, the Payne Pritchards, the Jason Tatums, of course. Those guys had a much easier time getting into the lane, didn't have as much resistance on the perimeter as the Sixers gave them in game 2. And that was a huge difference, because if you don't have a good point of attack defense, Celtics are just going to carve you up, get in the paint, drive and kick, get the defense in rotation, and you're cooked at that point. And that's what I saw tonight. I don't know why that was the case. It's just the defense at the point of attack wasn't as good as it was last game.
Yeah, it's frustrating. A lot of comments coming in right now, and keep them coming, because the 76ers end up losing and getting smoked 128-96, and it was ugly across the board in a game that you want a little bit more fight. You want a little bit more effort, especially when you do get the big man out there. I don't know if there's deeper issues. I'm not so sure, in the in the hyper focus of bringing back Embiid and really taking it possession by possession. I know that that's going to be a big time talking point, that just completely changed the team. And to this guy, Baseball Rants, that's checking in, it's like, well, they wouldn't have lost by 30 if Embiid stays away. Okay, 20, 25, all right.
They weren't winning the series, which is the point.
No. But their best chance to win the series was with the healthy Embiid, though.
Correct. You have to try it. Like, there's no doubt about it. And by the way, for the rebounding conversation, no, Joel Embiid had 10 rebounds tonight. No other player on the roster had more than 4 rebounds. That can't happen. Paul George, that can't happen. VJ Edgecombe, that can't happen. Andre Drummond, Adem Bona, like, there's got to be some level of rebounding production. Kelly Oubre, by the way, has to help on the boards like that. It was bad across the board with all that. Now, to stick a little bit on the big picture conversation here, for all the Joel Embiid, get him out of here, all this kind of thing, my pushback just directly is sell me the vision for how this actually becomes a better roster. What is the possible pathway to where I can buy into the Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe backcourt is actually a legitimate championship contender? I don't want to hear that I'm sick of it. I don't want to hear that I've got something new. I need actual tangible strides to what is the vision for this being a better basketball.
Lucky for you, that's not a conversation or that's not a question that needs to be answered tonight. And we got a long way to go.
Or maybe 2 more games. Yep.
Yeah, that long way to go all off season long. And that's going to be one at the top of the list. But I just, Sean, they haven't won it with them.
To the VJ Edgecombe point,
like, we got to do something different eventually. And that, unfortunately, like, I'll tell you, hand in the air too. I got to be honest with you. I get really like bad vibes, sick to my stomach vibes seeing Josh Harris on the court. Like, the owner just being at the game, it's problematic. It is really bad. And I know I'm not in the minority. Like, there is some deep, deep stuff that are involving him, and that Lutnick deal. And then he just hopped on. Did you see him getting pressed this past week about his relationships with Jeffrey Epstein? He still wouldn't come to it. Like, I'm sorry. I look over and I see Josh Harrison. I get a bad vibe from the beginning of the freaking game. And I get it. He's the owner. He's not going to sell the team. But I think that this team has some deeper issues than just one. Oh, what are we going to do with Joel Embiid? Sam,
yeah, I'm never going to defend Josh Harris. I mean, he's a bad owner.
Oh.
But the
vibes, man. Aren't you? I'm a vibes guy. You know that. You got to have some positive vibes.
I mean, yeah, when he was courtside at the Celtics game, for sure.
Well, even tonight.
The only point I want to make about Josh Harris and the ownership group is, yeah, they never pay the luxury tax and they always force their president to get under the tax. But most owners do that. Like, it's not like a Sixers are the only team that do that. Very few teams actually pay the luxury tax. So most teams try to get under the deadline. The thing about Josh Harris is I don't really think he cares about the Sixers that much. And especially now that he has the Commanders are his number one team. So it's not like he doesn't care about them at all. But he's a guy that he'll hire Daryl Morey and be like, I'm getting out of your way, Daryl Morey. You run the show. All basketball is up to you. You just have to get under the luxury tax, as most teams do, that direction from their ownership. He's not one of these owners that's going to get involved in basketball decisions, say like James Dolan might, who kind of wants to insert himself, even though you know nothing about basketball. Josh Harris isn't that guy. He'll get the people in charge, and whether that's Bob Myers or Daryl Morey moving forward or someone else, he'd say, you're running the show and everything goes through you basketball-wise. He's not going to insert himself, which is something you actually want in an owner, I think, at least.
Yeah, I do agree with that point, Sam. Like, I definitely hear you on the vibes conversation, Brace, and for whatever, like, he is a guy that falls in that category. Like, it shows on the screen, and you feel a little some type of way like that. But I do
go to a box.
Yeah, I do appreciate from an ownership standpoint of I'm getting out of the way. That, like, I'm gonna pay the bill, do what my job is, but you guys make the decisions run. I think it's more trouble for a franchise when you get a Jerry Jones type that wants his fingers all over everything and that kind of conversation there. So I guess I respect that out of Josh Harris. But the bottom line is we know this is not a Mark Cuban situation where he's living and dying with the team. We know this is not a guy that is that invested. It's a business move for him. That's all it is right there. And I think that's why that there sometimes is a little bit of this disconnect between the fan base and the organization.
128 points, the most scored by the Boston Celtics this round. They opened up with that game 1 beatdown, 123-91. This was even worse for my money because it came obviously with a little bit of expectation at home. Shame on me for thinking that they could make this a little interesting and keep it tight. 6.5 point spread with Embiid. Embiid hit his point prop. That's how I know. That was easy. But the game, not so much. Sam, I cut you off. You were talking about VJ Edgecombe, and I guess the big point about VJ is like we have to be realistic in the proper and look at his performance and the expectation and proper lens. He had 22 points tonight, right? Like, but the other night he struggled. Of course, he was one of the main reasons why they were able to pull that game 2 victory on the road. I just like, again, big picture, I look at certain things differently. And when I look at VJ Edgecombe, I just want to continue to see him get better. And my expectations for him as a rookie in his 4th playoff game. Yeah, fourth. Yeah. Like he performed. I can't ask him to do too much. Your thoughts?
I think you were looking at Maxi's box score. VJ Edgecombe at 6 tonight.
Yeah,
I did.
So that changes the equation a little bit
as well. Yeah,
I did. Yeah, okay, that does change it a little bit. Again, all right, so not a good game. Yeah, 6 points. Good grief.
So 2 for 9, 6 points. And the thing about his performance, and credit to the Celtics, is they were like, we do not care at all that you scored 30 in game 2. The last 2 games, they have been like, please, VJ Edgecombe, beat us again. You're a rookie. We dare you to beat us again. And they've given him a lot and kind of laid off him, be like, make those pull-up threes again. Get downhill at the same rate again. And he hasn't been able to. And that's a credit to the Celtics, knowing that they were facing a rookie. And we talked about it last show. It's tough to rely on a rookie as your 2nd or 3rd best player, whatever it is. And that's not an indictment on VJ Edgecombe. You just said it. It was his 4th playoff game ever. He's going to be a star in this league. The more playoff reps he get is good, which is why even if they lose in 5 in this series, it's important for VJ to be playing and getting these reps. But you just can't expect that much from them. And then the Celtics have been daring him to beat them. And you can kind of see he knows that, and he's losing his confidence. And it just wasn't a good day from him. It wasn't in game 3 either. And it's hard to get that type of offensive production as a unit when you're relying on a rookie.
All right, real quick, give me, if people are just joining us, the number one reason why the Sixers got left 128-96 tonight was what, Sean?
Would be Tyrese Maxey's lack of aggression was what I would sum it up. There's obviously more to it. The 3-point shooting, the rebounding, all these things are legitimate factors right there, that there's a million reasons. But if I'm to sum it up in one, I would say Tyrese Maxey's lack of assertiveness and desire to score. And he just came out himself. I'm scrolling through sort of the press conference quotes saying that's completely unacceptable by me. 3 shots can't happen. Well, dude, you did. Like this was you that made it happen right there. So nonetheless, hopefully it is like a learning experience from him, but it's tough, man. We're kind of past the point. While I'm willing to extend the olive branch to VJ Edgecombe, this is his first taste of playoff basketball. This is a guy who all the experience will be good. For Maxey, I'm kind of past that. I do have expectations. There is a standard that you have to live up to, and he failed to do that tonight.
Sam, same question to you. One reason why they lost this game, the main one.
I think it was offensive rebounding by the Celtics. They just killed them on the offensive glass. After the first quarter, Celtics had 9 offensive rebounds compared to the Sixers' 0 offensive rebounds. And when you get that many second chance opportunities and you're that good of a 3-point shooting team, like there was a possession that Sam Hauser missed a semi-open 3. Derek White got an offensive rebound, and it was kicked back to Sam Hauser for another open 3. That guy is not going to miss 2 open 3s. And that happened time and time again. And the Celtics are just too good of a shooting team where you can't give them those second chances. I will say, though, the Sixers had been a really good offensive rebounding team in this series the first 3 games. Sixers actually out-rebounded the Celtics in the offensive rebounding battle the first game. Second game, it was 18-12 Boston. Third game, it was 15-13 Boston. So the Sixers were in it. Tonight, it was 14-6. It was the most lopsided offensive rebounding battle of the series. And I think part of that is when you have Joel Embiid on the floor, you're not going to crash the offensive glass as much because you need to prioritize transition defense. And Embiid isn't the best at transition defense and getting back. So that kind of hurt them in a way, which is the one thing about Embiid's presence that isn't great. Overall, though, the Celtics just kill you on the offensive glass. Sixers couldn't defensive rebound the ball, and that led to so many more open 3s than they should have got. And that's kind of how the lead in the first quarter and the second quarter ballooned to what it was.
Mine, I would say Peyton Pritchard.
Unbelievable.
How funny was that? Like, right? That's how we ended the game 4, our last game post-game show, and we were talking about Peyton Pritchard and just what he brings to the table. And wow, does he make life easier for you when he goes absolutely ape? You know what? Scores 32 off the bench. Oh, by the way, 6-12 from downtown, including backbreakers with the shot clock running down and the quarter running out. Like, yeah, man, he was a circus act down there in South Philly tonight. And there's just, look, when you get the production from Peyton Pritchard, their bench went absolutely berserk as a whole. as far as production is concerned. And then you get Jaylen Brown and, of course, Tatum delivering. Tatum goes for 30. Brown goes for 20. There you go. That's your recipe. The Stars made big plays. You got some production from some other players. And, man, that was an easy one for the Celtics, 128-96.
Yeah, and I'm still seeing the comments pop up. Shout out to our guy Baseball Rants, who's all over me right now, and I appreciate it. I like the back and forth here. I just will push back and say playing slower does not necessarily mean playing is worse. Like I came on here 10 out of 10, like at the start of this series, talk about the priority is get out in fast break, push the tempo. The reason for that being is that the Sixers could not stand up to the Celtics team in a half-court setting when you don't have Joel Embiid there. Joel Embiid changes the equation. Are they going to have a better chance of putting the ball in the basket in a half-court setting with Joel Embiid than running up-tempo without him? My answer to that would be yes, that he is one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. Look at all the stats. Look at all the numbers. You can run through that. That's an advantage that they have. Do the defending champions Oklahoma City Thunder play fast? Not really. The Boston Celtics, the team that just delivered belt to ass to the Sixers team, ranked dead last in the NBA in pace this season. So I hear you. You're not wrong on the point that it is stylistically different as far as pace. Playing slower does not necessarily mean it's worse. It doesn't mean that it is a worse outlook for the team. There's different ways to win basketball games. Every team is a different style right there. I don't think that is like a direct correlation the way it's trying to be dunked on me as.
It's also not that Embiid came back. It's that Embiid didn't play that well to start this game. I mean, he had the first 8 points. We know that, but he was 3 for 12 from the field to start, and he just wasn't making those shots that he typically does. I didn't think he had the impact that he typically does in a game. So it's not that much that he came back. It's that he wasn't the typical Embiid, even if you look at the numbers, and it might suggest that.
The thing I would say is, like, I would hope that was the expectation.
Sure.
Right? Like, I would hope. So where does that go with, like, if you know you're going to play Embiid, he's not 100%. Dude, he was bent over in pregame warmups. Like, some of those videos, I was like, oh, man. So I was surprised at, like, what he was able to do, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
But, like, that's got to come back to Nick Nurse. The offense has to be tweaked to a point. It can't be get the ball to Joe at the elbow, right? Like, something's got to happen there, because, like, my expectation for Joel Embiid was basically what we saw, Sean.
Yeah, and I think, like, the bigger picture takeaways for this series to me is, like, if we're slicing up the blame pie right here, so much more that I feel than I thought I was going to feel coming into the series is directly distributed to Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse right there. Nick Nurse is not pressing the right buttons. He doesn't have the exact game plan in order, and then maybe he doesn't have the right possible buttons to press. That there certainly is a gap in talent, a gap in options that goes back to the decisions to trade the deadline. For Nurse specifically, some of the schematic stuff, you can't guard the Boston Celtics with, like, this sort of manic fashion of rotating around the court. I'm just really disappointed in, like, the top end of this organization.
I disagree with Sean there. I think before tonight, I thought Nick Nurse was coaching a brilliant series. I think the last 2 games, he had done a really good job with their defensive game plan and offensively, the process of the way they were getting their threes in game 2 and game 3 versus game 1. So I thought Nick Nurse was making good adjustments and push. I actually thought he was pushing the right buttons. Tonight was just a disaster all around. So yeah, but I wasn't putting any blame on Nick Nurse. I was actually thinking coming in tonight, he might have saved his job, which is how well he was coaching. But at this point, that's probably not the case.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a little unfair to Nick Nurse after this season, but you can't just go off of this season, right? Like, if we're honest about Nick Nurse and the totality of this franchise under his helm, as he's the head coach, like, I don't think it's delivered. So that's the decision where I'm at now. If I'm judging him off of this year, like, yeah, Sam, it's tough. Like, think about everything he had to deal with.
And that's where you guys have been way more bullish on Nick Nurse is absolutely going to get fired than I have, just from the standpoint of, like, I understand the case he can legitimately make for to look at all the variables that I had to deal with. Look at the injuries that Joel Embiid had. Look at the suspension to Paul George. Look at me not having my guys, the team that I was supposed to have constructed available for nearly a legitimate sample size right there. And still, I got this team to the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. I won a game over the Boston Celtics. Like, there are points that he can make that are valid for sort of maximizing what he has. At the same time right here, I would push back and ask, what is it that Nick Nurse does well as a head coach? What is what is there an advantage that he brings? Like, by the way, that challenge, which like obviously we weren't
that
running
was
challenges.
That was really
at the end
bad.
of the game. That was like the most obvious out of bounds on the Sixers call like ever. Like right away, there was no chance that wasn't, and that you burn your challenge for the game. You didn't feel that today, but it's little things like that do bother me.
That was unbelievable. And that's not even on Nick Nurse. That's on the bench guy, whoever's telling him to challenge. I mean, that was the most obvious non-challenge ever. And then you don't have a challenge the rest of the game. Like you said, it didn't really matter. I will say that I'm not 100% sure that Nick Nurse is going to get fired. I do think that you can't go into next season without making any major changes. And a lot of people think Josh Harris doesn't really care about the Sixers, and that's probably valid thinking. But you really know he does not care about the Sixers if there's no changes coming in. And a lot of times the coach is, right or wrong, the coach is the first one to go. This team hasn't been above a 7 seed for 3 straight years now. That's just not good enough. It's just not. You can say the injuries, you can say all this. It's just not good enough. And there's
some decent names out there too. There's some decent names out there. I think. Look, I just think you clean house, and that would be the best thing for everybody, including this fan base that has just been beaten down. You're right, Sam. If he doesn't make any changes, good grief. Hey, we're gonna run it back. Oh my God.
How'd that work out for the Phillies?
Yeah, tell me about it. Frame McRib wants to know if they lose 4-1. Essentially, that's what's going to happen. I don't see them having the heart to go up there to win in that game. Who knows? Who cares? They're not going to win this series regardless. I do think that Daryl Morey is done. I just think that you see Bob Myers next to Josh Harris, and Bob Myers has been around all season long, so it's easy to connect the dots there. He's going to be the guy.
We've talked about it a bunch. One of the most underrated storylines across the NBA, maybe locally, we're hitting on it, but nationally, it's not really talked about how maybe like this guy who's considered the best executive, him and Sam Presti in the NBA over the last 2 decades, people will consider him the I don't know if you want to say the architect, but a big reason why the Warriors were the dynasty that they were. He's just been a Sixers executive. Like he's been in almost every single game all season. We've been pointing it out. He's essentially a Sixers executive at this point, and nobody's really talking about it. I know technically he works for Harris's entire organization, and he had a lot to do with the Commanders when they were making their hires with the new ownership. But still, like this guy's essentially a Sixers executive.
Yeah, I will say I do think he's one of the more overrated front office personnel in sports. He's a Steph Curry merchant that he inherited Steph Curry. And
come on. It's not that easy. You still got to put a roster together. You still got to make the right moves. Give the man. How many years was he there? How many championships was he a part of?
I'm just saying when you got the best shooter of all time, when you get guys like Kevin Durant knocking on your door, begging
you're
for you
making that way too easy. Way too easy.
It's also he implemented a culture too. Him and Steve Kerr. That's part of it.
Him and Mark Jackson. First off, like that's another guy that doesn't get the shine on.
They lost in the first round, and then Steve Kerr comes in and wins them a championship. Mark Jackson should get no credit. He was holding them back.
I would hardcore disagree there. That I think that was about
I mean, they were the same team. They lost in the first round. Next year, Steve Kerr implements his system with Steph Curry in that backcourt, and they win a title.
I'm a guy that wants to give we need to give the proper. I don't know what the proper credit is, but we at least have to give some credit, right? Like you can't tell me Bob Myers is a Steph Curry merchant and he shouldn't get any love. He didn't do anything out there. It was all Steph. Yeah, I get it. I know Steph was unbelievable, but there are 1,000,001 decisions made every single season. Sure. And when you win a championship, come on, man, you should get some credit. You should get some love. And Mark Jackson should get some credit and get some love. And I would imagine Steph Curry would give Mark Jackson some sort of credit, right, Sam?
Probably, yeah. I just think Steve Kerr is much more important figure, and it was pretty obvious when he walked in the door. But Bob Myers deserves a ton of credit. You can't just because he inherited Steph Curry. He made a lot of right moves, drafting personnel wise. Yeah, he made some wrong moves. Drafting James Wiseman was probably the worst decision. Yeah. But even that 2022 championship, like the Jordan Poole, the Andrew Wiggins, those guys that were a big part of that championship, that was Bob Myers.
Yeah, I just think I can make a pretty compelling and do feel that Daryl Morey is a better executive than Bob Myers is. For what he's done when we're talking about like finding a guy like James Harden, who obviously I'm talking the first round at the Rockets, where this was a guy who was on a 6-man in Oklahoma City, and evolving him into an MVP caliber player, finding the 3-point.
I was a James Harden guy in college. Just saying.
Respect, shout out Arizona State, but
Damn right.
my point being here, this is not to stick up for Daryl Morey. I think the more that this season has played out, the worse I feel about it from his perspective. I think the trade deadline decision making has really come back to kill this team, and it's been really put on display for this overall, just this series right there. And then even like Paul George, like the big swing, man, it's got to be more than what we're getting, and it just hasn't been.
Yeah, anybody getting off of taking any shrapnel here is like Paul George getting a little bit of
I've seen like zero. I've seen pretty much zero Paul George criticism, which is pretty stunning to me.
3 for 3 from downtown, 6 of 13 from the field, 16 total points, 31 minutes. He just like, okay. The big thing would be, I can't believe that he's a max player, and this is the expectation is for him to go off, and it's like I don't think he has that in his game anymore. Clearly, he doesn't.
We've seen it for stretches. I mean, he was 3 for 3 from deep. You just want him to get more of those opportunities.
Correct.
It's kind of like the Tobias Harris thing too, where it was just apathy at the end of his tenure, and people hated him, and for sure, but. It was like, yeah, we know this guy's overpaid. He's not going to deliver based on what he's getting paid. And that's kind of where we're at with Paul George. Can he be a really productive role player and step into that star role? He had a decent game 2 and game 3, I thought. But overall, you're not getting what you paid for with him. And everybody's accepted that.
And the hard part is, like, he's definitely a helpful basketball player. Like, he's a positive to have on the court.
Defensively, too. He's good defensively still.
He just makes too much damn money.
Exactly. Like, this isn't necessarily a criticism of, like, this guy sucks.
Suspended 25 games for something that we still don't know.
And by the way, well, yeah, we'll skip that one. But and by the way, allegedly, but if he was not suspended in that 25 game stretch, they maybe win 2 more basketball games. Then they're not playing the Boston Celtics in the first round of the playoffs right here. Like
he'd be hurt too. Probably he'd be hurt if he had to play 25 games.
I mean, fair. But when we're talking about like how tight the margins were, if the Sixers were playing the Knicks in this first round, I think the Sixers win that series. I really do.
You could talk yourself into the Sixers beating the 2018 Warriors. That's what you do.
No.
Come on.
The Knicks are crying in the locker room, right?
They're not beating anybody. The Knicks team might beat the Celtics team. I still don't think the Celtics team is that good.
Detroit would. I'll allow to dream about the Detroit Pistons upset. I'll allow that, but they weren't beating the Knicks. They're not beating the Hawks.
Knicks are bad.
They're not beating. I don't know, man. I think the Magic might get them right now, to be honest with you. The Sixers are looking bad. It's just, dude, look at VJ. Last 2 games, 0 for 11 from downtown. I think 16 total points in the 2. Like, you got to have him scoring 30, 25 to beat these teams.
But I think that's just you got to ride the rookie wave a little bit. I don't necessarily put that as a glowing success of the Celtics. Like VJ also looked like the best player on the entire floor for a game in the series here. Like
that's the problem. It's that you when you have a rookie, you're riding those highs and lows, and you don't know what you're going to get night in and night out.
I watched Mikal Bridges score 0 points in a basketball game. I watched like Josh Hart is like looks like he can't hit the broadside of a barn right now. I'm just saying, like my point here is being they kind of did this themselves, and that Paul George suspension was a major reason for it. Certainly, the odds makers would have given the Sixers a way better chance if this was a Knicks Sixers matchup.
Well, it's I thought that there would be a little bit more energy, a little bit more juice after. Or heading into that game, I thought that we were going to get a heck of a better performance from the
place
team.
Was rocking in the beginning. I mean, the entire Eagles franchise and presence was there. Everybody in the building was there from the Eagles, and it felt like
who was there from the Eagles?
Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman,
I did see, yeah.
Sirianni, Sean Mannion, your boy, Dom, everybody,
Big Dom.
But it felt like. The building was rocking in the beginning. I heard there was a lot of Celtics fans there too. Way too many Celtics fans, which is now just a theme. If the Sixers are going to play anybody on the East Coast, that team is going to take their arena over, which is a whole different conversation. But that it just felt like there was so much excitement about Embiid's return, and then within 6 minutes, it was like, all right, the juice out of this place is completely gone.
Yeah, I will say that there are levels to it, and the Knicks are clearly in a tier to their own. Yeah, there were Celtics fans. I don't know about taking over the building though, right? Like.
I mean, at the end of the game, you could hear "We Want Boston" chants mocking them. Yeah, everyone hit their cars to get out of there.
Damn right they did.
It still blows my mind that the Celtics scumbags like take offense to that. Like, what do you want?
Just fans being fans.
Yeah, it is. But it's like, do you think that's disrespectful? Like, do you think that was we actually sat here like I want to play the Celtics of any team in the NBA? That was how the matchup turned out. What do you want people to say?
Dude, they chuckled. they thought it was cute. They go, "Oh, really? You want Boston? That's cute." And they're mocking us. That's all it is. The players, anybody that heard, like, no, I don't even think it probably registered on the players' radar. Like, they don't give a damn about none of that. But anybody, like the media, the fans, like, "Oh yeah, you want Boston?" Like, we don't beat Boston. It's not a rivalry. They own us. It can't be a rivalry when we don't beat them. Ask Joel Embiid.
Yeah, 1982, the last time.
Well, I know that there's going to be a lot of discussion around Embiid, and rightfully so. You know, I think it's a. I think this franchise needs a hard reset. They need to check the heart. I mean,
But why? Like, we're just going to mediocrity is what you're selling your soul for. Like,
versus
But that's what
having
they've been, Sean. They're sitting at mediocrity. Play-in is the ceiling for this team, and that's been the truth. The
you
last
could do
3
better.
years.
You could do better. You could
How?
do
Sitting
better.
at mediocrity.
how? What are you? Who are you?
Vision, a coach, new vision at the top, right? Like there's brilliant minds out there, man. You got to find them. And I believe that a coach, you give them the right personnel. Maxey and VJ are two really good pieces to start with, right?
Like, can I ask there? Am I super having an overreaction that one of my takeaways or one of the thoughts that crossed my mind is, are we for sure that Tyrese Maxey is a building block guy for this franchise? Because I'm not as sold as I thought I was.
Yeah, I mean, I am building block for sure. He's never going to be your number
The
one
guy.
guy on a contending team ever. But as one of the best players, I think so. He struggled the last 2 months. Something's going on with him where maybe it's the minutes load he had to play in the first half of the year. He just hasn't been the same player over the last 2 months and into these playoffs. We also saw him in the playoffs a couple of years ago in that Knicks first round where he was awesome. So I don't think it's a playoff thing with Tyrese Maxey at all. I think there's something going on with him that predates the postseason. So, yes, I'm sure he's a building block guy. I don't think anybody's ever believed that he could be the number one face of your franchise guy. But as a building block, 100%. Him and VJ Edgecombe, you have your backcourt. You just need a lot else to actually become a contender.
Tyrese is 25, right?
Yep.
Like, I know there might be a tad of an overreaction. And it's just like, I'm not putting the ceiling on him. Like, he has proven me wrong every single season for the last 3, right? He's gotten much better than anything I expected. I never thought that this guy would be an all-pro. He's just got to finish the season stronger, and I think that that's going to come with more years, right? He's 25, but like, that's really young, man.
But if you're kind of guys are with me on, like, Maxey's probably not a 1A. I don't think VJ is going to – I think VJ is an incredible player and a guy that I'm really excited to see what he grows into. I don't know if I feel that he's going to be like a 1A guy either. Then how do we get one? How do they find a guy like that? Because all you're doing is just going to continue sitting in this, like, play-in zone. And I don't see the pathway to, like, where is that missing piece that, like, I just have a hard time.
Dude, it was a week ago that you were saying VJ Edgecombe is Michael Jordan.
Well, yeah. That's fair.
Like, how do we get here?
He's 20. Like,
You're right. We don't know what VJ is. He's been way better than I imagined he could be.
He's got to
already.
beef up. I mean, he's really small out there. He's got to beef up. I know that. But the athleticism is incredible. You know, the mentality that he possesses, like, yo, get out of the way. Again, he hit a little bit of a wall. I mean, again, Boston Celtics in the playoffs. That's a championship team with a really good head coach. So shouldn't be all that surprised. I mean, he did forget how to shoot, and he was 0 for 11 from downtown, and some of them are really ugly, but it is what it is. All right, let's get some last thoughts here. We went 48 minutes, and like I said, game 5 on Tuesday. I don't think there's going to be a 6 or 7, so I would assume that that's probably going to be the last one. Let's do the final thoughts here. Sam, I'll come to you first. Your thoughts.
I think there could be a game 6, and I think I do. I think it's definitely going to be more competitive. I like I said, if you shoot 60% of your shots from 3 and you make 45% of them, nobody's keeping up with them. And the Sixers have a lot of film session and studying to do to kind of see where everything went wrong and kind of readjust their game plan with Embiid on the floor for game 6. But they're going to be more competitive. And I just don't think this Celtics team is that good. We've seen Peyton Pritchard like in game 2 where he was really bad and the Celtics as a whole shot poorly from 3. When you shoot that many threes, you can also have off nights. And if they shoot 25% from 3 in a game 5, then the Sixers can steal that one. So I think it's going to be more competitive. We see this all the time in playoff series where teams lose by 30 and then somehow they win the next game. It just kind of happens in the postseason. You got to learn from it, flush it, and then have a next game mindset. And I think they will. I think they're actually going to compete pretty hard. I don't know if they're 100% going to win, but I think they could force this thing to a game 6. And that's as far as I'll take it. But this series is not 100% dead in the water. It's over Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it's over. And maybe they give you a little bit of a fight, but I don't think they come away with that victory. I think there'll be a dagger from Tatum or something like that. Like I said, the only reason why they won game 2, they got great performances from Maxey and Embiid, but they missed the shots that they normally make over the years. The Boston Celtic daggers.
That's
and you
true.
saw that in game 3 with Tatum down the stretch. Those guys didn't miss. The bad rebounding. You know, those balls always find the opposition. Always. Every single year. When the 76ers are in these big games, they never get that big rebound, and the teams that they're playing against always hit that big shot. And it'll be more of the same on Tuesday night, but we'll see. Sean, your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess shout out to Joel Embiid for stepping back on the floor. I do think that deserves some credit 17 days post-surgery, even if it was the performance or the result that we hoped for that it would bring on right there. It's frustrating, man. They ran into a better team, and we're seeing kind of the gap in that being put on full display right here. So there are some positive takeaways from the season. The series is not quite over just yet, but this was sort of a pretty gut blow to me to just the way that tonight played out. So this is as down as I've kind of felt about this direction of the Sixers organization. Tonight hurt. Tonight was a tough one that I think everyone has to look themselves in the mirror and try and learn from, try and grow from.
Quickly before we get out of here, though, Toronto 93-89. That series is all tied up at 2. Sam?
Yeah, the
James
Raptors,
Harden.
I believe they shot, what was the final number? 20% from 3 today? I mean, you just don't win basketball games shooting 13%. The Raptors shot 13% from 3. That's an absurdly low number, and somehow they pulled out a win. James Harden and Donovan Mitchell have not been what you thought they were, but it's really the front court for the Cavs, where Evan Mobley and Jared Allen combined for 11 points and only 12 rebounds between those two guys. And that's kind of been the Cavs' shortcomings throughout the postseason over the last few years, where it's their front court just doesn't come up big. So they need to fix that. I don't think the Raptors are that good, but if they're going to defend the way that they're defending the Cavs right now, they have a chance to pull off an upset in the series. By the way, a lot of these series have been super low scoring. Defensive battles. Guys aren't making as many shots in the postseason, which is what happens. Refs are allowing more physicality. You're just seeing low scoring games.
Yeah, and then injuries too. We're seeing a lot of guys go down. That's some bad luck there. That's some bad stuff. We had the Lakers and Rockets currently in progress. That game is or that series is 3-0. And yeah, maybe Houston. Yeah, well, Houston was up. They choked and threw that game up all over. They vomited all over the court in the final 30 seconds. So shame on them on that one. So I could see them getting the victory tonight. And then we'll see what happens with Luka and whether or not he's able to come back or when he's coming back. Any word on that?
Him probably next series. Austin Reeves, I think if it wasn't a 3-0 series, I think he probably would have played tonight, is what it sounds like right there. Luka seems like next round is a more actual attainable goal right there, but hamstrings are funny, so we'll see. And I will say, to the Cavs Raptors point, I did feel strongly today watching that game of thank goodness we are not doing the James Harden experience anymore. He's had 15 turnovers over his past 2 games right there. Doesn't look like he wants any bit of part of the moment. And I'll also note, if you were to guess when or from the final whistle, how long the Cavaliers got their last defensive rebound in that game, would you have any idea, Sam Ostry?
Like 6 minutes to go.
5 minutes and 57 seconds left in the game was the last time they pulled on a defensive rebound. That's worse than the Sixers for all the rebounding conversations we're having. That is insane right there.
All right. And then also from we talked about the injuries, and that's a shame. Like the T-Wolves.
At least Jokic's true colors are coming out. I do appreciate that.
Well, exactly. You get that. Sam, just buckle up, buddy. It's going to come down to OKC and the San Antonio Spurs.
It might. It is.
It absolutely is. And The Spurs have owned them all season long. The San Antonio Spurs are going to win it all this year.
We'll
Watch
see.
out.
Please take your victory lap if that happens. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see, because we'll see how important the regular season is. I do want to say if the Wolves end up winning this series against the Nuggets, they will be without obviously Dante DiVincenzo and then probably Anthony Edwards at least half the series. So yeah, the Spurs will be huge favorites in that. The Nuggets are not out of this series by any stretch. They're down 3-1 and they look like a mess. And yeah, they got into that big scuffle after the game. I don't know how the Wolves are going to score consistently without Dante DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards for the rest of this series. And this is a huge gut check for the Nuggets. We're going to have a lot of offseason changes if they lose in the first round, but they're not out of it. So they still might play the Spurs in the second round, and then watch out, because the Nuggets are a good matchup for the Spurs.
To do you one better and raise you that, Sam Ostry, if Nikola Jokic is who you say he is, who everyone on the numbers nerds, all these guys that have taken over basketball, if he is who you guys believe he is, he should absolutely win this series. If Anthony Edwards is not,
he's got to win 3 out of 4 games.
Without Anthony Edwards, without the entire starting backcourt,
it's hard to beat anybody 3 out of 4 times. Yeah, if it was 0-0 right now, he 100% would win this series.
I'm just saying, I've been told this guy is one of the best offensive players of all time.
He is.
He's not. I think we're very clearly seeing that he's not.
Sean, what year is this for him?
Playing one of the best defensive players of all time.
Like, we've been watching this
Rudy
guy
Gobert,
for
you're
forever.
putting in that category.
How many guys have ever won 4 defensive players of the year? Yeah, he's in that category.
I'm just saying, I've seen Luka Doncic make this guy look like a cone out there in the postseason.
Completely different players.
I've seen
different players when you're a perimeter step back guy.
I've seen Rudy Gobert get played off the court in the playoffs year after year, and this guy just has Nikola Jokic in jail. I'm just saying, it doesn't quite add up in my mind.
11th year, right? And yeah, sure, he's struggling, which is definitely something that I didn't expect. Things happen.
Struggling is an understatement for what it's worth. He is actively undermining his team, that they are a miles better team when he is not on the floor right now. Nikola Jokic is playing.
Well, they wouldn't be in this position if he didn't play, though, right? Like,
he's having and I'm the biggest Nikola Jokic guy in the world. He's having a terrible series.
Well, what the hell is going on besides the fact that he's going up against Gobert and they got him, obviously? But like, what's really going on?
He can't shoot the 3 ball. He's just been terrible from 3. And when you can't shoot the 3, it's like Gobert can sag off, and it makes it so much harder for his drives. And then when that's happening, his passing isn't as good as it's been, and he looks tired and exhausted. I don't know what's going on, but Gobert has him in a chamber.
You can only fake it for so long, Sean Brace.
Stop it. It's been 11 years.
Jesus.
LeBron had his 2011 finals moments. Everyone's had bad playoff moments.
And the other thing that I need to say with my chest,
fake it for so long,
should be declared out here, is every single time that Nikola Jokic things aren't going his way on the court, the dude just throws a hissy fit and gets into fights with people, man. Like, he's a dirty player when things are going bad, and that should be said out loud.
It wasn't dirty. I wouldn't have done it, but it wasn't dirty what he did yesterday.
Yeah, what was it? How would you describe it then?
It was
unnecessary. It was unnecessary. Yeah. You got your.
I'm frustrated.
I'm someone who believes if you're getting killed in a game like that, then the other team can score a meaningless layup at the end.
And how about Jaden McDaniels? Like, what I like is a guy who says with his chest to the media, these guys are all bad defenders. I'll name them by name: Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson. Goes down the entire list. Goes out and gives these guys buckets. You have every right to slam it, take that extra layup, do whatever you want, and let the guy pout about it.
Credit to Jaden McDaniels for that. The Wolves haven't won these last 2 games because the Nuggets are a bad defense. It's the Nuggets offense that's been super disappointing. So yeah, I mean, Jaden McDaniels stood on business, but it's not like the Nuggets defense is killing them right now.
All right, we'll put a bow on this one. Great job as always, boys. We'll be back Tuesday night to put a bow on the Philadelphia 76ers season. But it's going to be fun in that next round. You're going to get Celtics and Knicks. That's going to be a great series. Can the Pistons find the magic and get back into the series now trailing 2-1? We'll see. Cavs, I expect to beat the Raptors, but I don't think anyone, well, who knows if the Magic win? That's going to really throw a wrench into it, but we'll see how that one plays out. And on the West side, give me Lakers and Thunder. And then, of course, as we just discussed, Spurs and T-Wolves. That's pretty good 2 matchups right there on the West side of things. Getting to those finals. Now we got, some teams that are absolutely championship contenders. So the pretenders move out of the way. And the Sixers will do that on Tuesday night. For Sam Oster from the Score, I'm Sean Brace, Sean Bernard as well, Crossing Prod. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Of course, I'm live 10 a.m. on 97.5 The Fanatic. Peace.